talking about different ways to get at a certain pitch, and Kevin Pillar was kind of setting himself up with different hand positions to try and access a pitch, and Josh Donaldson was sitting there adjusting the hand and adjusting the bat angle for different ways to kind of get at the ball. And it's little things like that to demonstrate just how all about baseball he is, and some of the added value that he brings, because he's always talking to different guys. He's not in a specific clique. He's all over that clubhouse. He has such a larger presence than what his numbers suggest. And you can really understand why he was so integral to those Oakland A's teams the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, and I really do think that looking forward, this is, I'm going to point out Gruber's Mullet on Twitter. A frequent Twitterer points out that from a pure player talent trade, I think this is the best trade Alex has made. But he also points out by trading Wells, it indirectly allowed Alex to sign Bautista. That's a good point. I mean, if you look back at the deals Alex made, that Wells deal was larceny. The fact that you could get a living, breathing body in return for that contract, never mind the room it gave you in the payroll, was a remarkable trade. But I just think when I look at this trade and I look down the road and I look at what the Blue Jays are going to need down the road, effectively you've answered one of your biggest questions. If you're the Blue Jays and you look, let's say 2 years away from now, and you assume that Marcus Stroman and Jeff Hoffman and Darren Sanchez are probably going to be in the majors contributing in some way, it's a pretty good team. It might be a better team than it is now, a couple of years down the road.
Sure, and I think there's no doubt that Donaldson is by far the best player that Anthopoulos has acquired via trade. But I just certainly agree that I think the Wells deal, just for all the different elements, and the fact that the Blue Jays managed to escape the $80-some-odd million that was left on it just before he really cratered in terms of performance. I think that one still has to be set to rank as his best trade, and we ultimately don't know what the cost is going to be yet.
Sure, Franklin Barreto. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Both those guys have a chance to be pretty good players, and Brett Lawrie still might be a very solid major leaguer as well. So, in terms of cost, we don't know. But I just think you're right about what Donaldson does for the window, and there's the bigger picture questions here with Jose Bautista and Edwin Encarnacion having just one season of club control left beyond the season. They have options for 2016, and then they're eligible for free agency. And having that MVP caliber middle of the order bat really gives them, I don't want to say necessarily flexibility, but it gives them some protection and some options if something were to happen with one of those two guys.
Yeah, I think what it does in some ways, Shai, is it extends the window of opportunity almost automatically. I mean, without putting this guy into Cooperstown. If you have Josh Donaldson and Russ Martin around, you're extending your window of opportunity a little bit, and certainly more than you would have, for example, if you still had Brett Lawrie on the team. Looking ahead, Shai, last night's performance by Mark Burley, I think we've seen, haven't we? And I know we talked about this, and I believe we talked about it last week. I think we've seen that there is kind of a transition going on with how the Blue Jays view Mark Burley, isn't there? There's no longer, I wouldn't say they're erring on the side of caution, but at least initially, I think John Gibbons' approach is if I can get 5 or 6 good innings out of Mark Burley, I'm going to go to the bullpen and let them finish it off. Obviously, it depends on the circumstance, but boy, I'll tell you, I can't remember the last time, and Buck and Pat both talked about this, I can't remember the last time that he handled the heart of that Baltimore order the way he handled it last night.
Mark Burley,
in a lot of ways, it's probably the best start of the season, given the type of game that it was. It was so tight, and it could have teetered a couple of times in Baltimore's favor, and it didn't, and he came up with pitches when he needed to. And I thought really an underplayed part of that game, just because of the offensive explosion that followed, was him getting out of that 6th inning unscathed after the Machado leadoff double. He skate back and struck out Paredes, and then intentionally walked Adam Jones and got the double play ball from Dalman Young. And if the Orioles take the lead at that point, maybe the whole game plays out differently. So I thought for all those reasons, it was a good performance. But you're right in terms of the way the Blue Jays are handling him. And I wonder if they're just trying to, preserve him a little bit physically too, to ensure that he remains strong over the course of the season. And rather than have him run up innings early on, if there's a game where they feel like they can just scale him back a little bit, and they've gotten what they needed to have gotten out of him on a given day, that there's no need to send him out there for an extra inning or two, just because. So I think you're right. We are seeing maybe a bit of a different way that they're handling him. And I think part of it is wanting to, try and get more out of him late in the season when they hope it's going to matter.
What's the latest on Jose Bautista? Pardon me. He made good contact last night. Although I'm sure, like a lot of people, Mike, I was thinking a wholly healthy Jose Bautista, at least one of those balls leaves the yard, I think. Right,
and that's somebody joked about that after the game. If his shoulder's healthy, does he have 3 home runs? I think you just look at the numbers over the last 15 games that he's played with the injury, and he's got a 910 OPS over that span. It's not like he's not being productive, and I get the school of thought where it's like, hey, sit him on the DL for 2 weeks or 15 days and let him get through it, and then put him back out in right field. But that's 15 games that you don't have him producing, and if he was a black hole offensively, they all right, well, he's hurting the team, but he's still helping the team, and it's complicated because there are lineup repercussions, and it limits some of what John Gavins can do. But the fact is, he's still a potent bat. Now, we joke about whether he would have had the home runs without the shoulder injury. There's no way to know for certain. Because he gets to certain balls that a lot of guys don't get to. He's able to drive them in ways that other guys can't. So was that just him slightly missing balls, or was that not enough pop or not